All right, starting today with Mysteries of Castlevania. We're talking about the weird, confusing parts of lore, because obviously there were a number of retcons going on. And we're going to talk about those and talk about some things that were unanswered, such as what is the abandoned castle, and who are the Lecardes, and what games could go back into canon with minimal contradictions. So, without much further ado, Albeleo here is my guest from Illinois, and we're going to have a fun time figuring out all these little bits about Castlevania. So, starting off, obviously, there's Hector. I mean, the abandoned castle is in Curse of Darkness. Hi, Braymore. How you doing? And there's Laser Blade, but we'll talk more about Curse of Darkness things later. But first things first, we're going to talk about the retcons they did and how much they changed Castlevania, starting from the original, I guess you call it the original trilogy of Castlevania, Simon's Quest, and Dracula's Curse. So the Castlevania franchise has many bizarre unanswered questions. Let's take a look at them. Start with Alucard retcons, Dracula retcons, and I added the Lecardes like close to the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I realized that it probably wouldn't fill our time slot for an hour today. So
all good.
Yeah. So as you can see, the top is how he was originally. Alucard as a character was originally shown. The bottom is how he started showing based on Kojima's artwork. Ayami Kojima, not Hideo Kojima. Don't be confused. So originally, and also not only that, they changed the origin. As you're familiar with Albeleo, do you remember what it was according to the book for Castlevania 3? What Alucard was?
I've never actually read the original booklet for Castlevania 3.
So for Castlevania 3, Dracula was at this time they didn't retcon it yet with Iga yet. Iga didn't retcon it, so Dracula is just Vlad the Impaler. Dracula made a deal, and Alucard was just a human, but Vlad made his son into a vampire like himself. So he's just the way Alucard started Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse is he's just a vampire. Not a vampire, half vampire.
That's a significant change.
Yeah, I will look that up. If Hideo and Ayami were related somehow, I don't know.
It could be. I'm pretty sure both of the Kojimas are unrelated.
I thought so too. I mean, it's just like saying there's a lot of people with the last name Smith. Doesn't mean they're related. That's a good example. I mean, Smith. The whole surname Smith came from you're the blacksmith family, but the name is very common, and as of 2000, it was the most common English surname out there was Smith. So I don't know how common Kojima is in Japanese, but it's just an example. So under that assumption that Alucard was just a vampire, he had a rather, you'd say, mixed daughter named Layla in the book Legends of Satanic Castle. And I'm going to actually bring up what Satanic Castle looks like.
Okay.
If I can. It hasn't been translated yet, but you can take a look at the cover and some of the pages of it.
Yeah, Hideo Kojima and Ayami Kojima are not related, despite having the same last name and working at the same company.
Well, Ayami mostly worked at the Castlevania part. Hideo Kojima obviously was Metal Gear Solid. So I'm going to get the whole window shared with you in a minute. So I'm going to, this is an image search, but you see, this one's pretty good. This picture's pretty good.
Okay.
So here you see the four major characters. There's the Dynasty character you can see with the knife.
Mm-hmm.
Grant Belmont, Layla Basarab, Alucard's daughter. And there's obviously they just take the same idea that you have a mage, a whip wielder, and a knife wielder, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But this is their children or grandchildren, depending on how they are. So that's it, right? That's a little bit here, right? That's a picture right here.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'll show you the cover here. Oh, are you kidding me? You gotta be, whatever.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Here we go. Oh no, here we go. We're back here. But that's the image. I can look at the image without going to the site. Yeah. So there's pages. They haven't gotten a English version yet. But here's another good page I liked from this. They see Layla, not Grant. It's right there.
Grant.
Yeah, right there. But that whole assumption is just that. Okay, Roland Dynasty. Okay, whatever. That's it. I'm going to stop sharing here. But this whole assumption is that he is just a regular vampire, which they went along with in a way in Lords of Shadow.
Yeah, because he just gets turned, right?
Yeah, in Lords of Shadow, yeah, he's just a person who picks a fight with Dracula and loses. And Dracula, who is also the first Belmont, finds out that he killed his own kid, so he gave him a coffin with the name Alucard on it. And that's in Mirror of Fate, which I might play Mirror of Fate live because it's not as much of a total misconstrued mess that Lords of Shadow 2 was. And it comes close to being the old side-scrolling Metroidvania type where you're mainly playing as the alternate Simon.
Good morning, Alexander. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, Alex?
Yeah, he doesn't have a daughter in the main timeline. We're discussing. Adrian was just explaining like alternate timelines and old stories from back in the day before the timeline, the retcons.
Before he got retconned it, basically. So before he got retconned it, he had a daughter named Layla, and that might be where they got the idea for Layla Marcus for Vampire Hunter D, because Layla in the book is also a blonde, also has a cross, and so on. Yeah, it is a choose your own adventure book. They only have it in Japanese. I mean, someone could get a PDF of it and scan it in today's technology. They could scan it and do Google Translate it on the whole thing. But it does involve making choices with your group and turning pages. Why would he? I don't know. I think because you're talking about a pre-retcon where he's just a vampire, so he probably figured if his daughter was a half vampire, that's less cursed. I don't know. So, okay. And obviously they changed his outfit because it's Symphony of the Night's way later. So now the Dracula retcon. So simply, according to Castlevania 3, Dracula's just Vlad the Impaler, but he made a deal with the devil so he became the powerful Count Dracula. Pretty simple is how it starts.
Yeah, storytelling back in the NES era was very simple.
Walls of text. I actually tried playing the first Legend of Zelda. I was playing the live streams for Link to the Past, and since I had so much time left over when I beat the last boss and went through the ending for Link to the Past, I just played the first Legend of Zelda ever made from '86.
Oh yeah, good luck.
It's actually more difficult. The first dungeon in Legend of Zelda, like for NES, is more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's more difficult in the outer world because you need to actually have the booklet. So I had to go get a PDF because I don't have the booklet for that Legend of Zelda game anymore. I'm playing it off Nintendo Switch Store, so I had to go look up the PDF of the Legend of Zelda booklet on the internet to read, like, to look at the map in it and see, okay, what dungeon should I go to first, and where are the shops? But yeah, back then you had to basically look at the booklet that came with the game to know what the map of Hyrule was.
Man, I miss those. I miss those days with manuals. The SNES manuals were so cool.
They are. They had some great art. They had some great artwork in them. I also had which game that. So I have the manuals for like Tiberian Sun, Red Alert 2, and those are pretty good as well.
I really like the one from the Final Fantasy series. They were always so good.
Illustrated, yeah.
Oh yeah. So do you think Sonia Belmont could still be canon by making her Leon's daughter?
I think so.
There would have to be a number of changes to Legends, but if there is any attempt to make any of the non-traditional timeline games canon, the gap between Curse of Darkness and Dracula's Curse would have to be the time, I'm sorry, the Lament of Innocence. Lament of Innocence and Dracula's Curse would have to be it. It would have to fall somewhere in that 300-year timeline, and it would have to end up being something ironically non-Castlevania. Like, you wouldn't be able to find the castle.
Right, and not only that, but there's kind of implications because there is Victor. He's in Lords of Shadow too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's implied that he had a mother or somebody named that. In the Lords of Shadow games, they skip out on a lot of generations, but Gabriel does say, or the Dracula for Lords of Shadow said that he had fought other generations of his own family before realizing that it's his own kids that are his enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and
I think a simple way to do it is to say that Trevor had a mother named Sonia and a father named who knows. That would work.
Yeah, basically, like Sonia could fit as a continuation of the Belmont clan that hunts things in the region, but hears whispers of where Dracula might have gone, which then sets up the family for properly settling in Transylvania. Or you could have an adventure prior to Dracula's Curse where there's some powerful vampire or just a cult or something that gets defeated, and because of the magics that the people of Transylvania fear, that's when Sonia could be the last Belmont that's in Transylvania before the family is forced into exodus from the region. And then in Dracula, in Castlevania 3, that's when, Trevor comes in because it's been that long, and the desperation from the fight against Dracula, et cetera,
Right. And of course, the main inspirations are the Hammer horror films starring Christopher Lee. Why am I saying Dracula Lee? Christopher Lee, and 1992 film starring Gary Oldman.
Great movie.
Oh yeah, I think Horror of Dracula, when it comes to Lee, Horror of Dracula or Prince of Darkness are my favorite of his 7 films that he was in. Horror is the one where he chases Peter Cushing as Van Helsing, and Peter Cushing is looking for anything that can stop this guy from getting to him, and the chase ends so right on the nail that it's like, that's suspenseful. That's well done. Running from Count Dracula around the castle.
I wouldn't mind a story where Dracula's, actually scary again.
Christopher Lee did a good job of that, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, in the 1992 film, they did a pretty good job with that one. At least, the nighttime scene with the brides, or the part where they used all the makeup and the makeup and animatronics to have Dracula become a giant bat.
Yeah.
When he's trying to get to the Harker house, that part.
Mm-hmm.
And Anthony Hopkins is pretty good in that as well.
Oh yeah, Anthony Hopkins is great in everything.
Oh right. The one problem is they really miscast Keanu Reeves as Jonathan. He tried to do this accent, but it didn't quite work.
I have a soft spot for Keanu. That was not a good role for him.
No. He'll always be Ted to me.
Mm-hmm. That would put Trevor in the same place as Richter in Castlevania Nocturne series.
Well, not necessarily. The way I'm suggesting is that the mother's name was Sonia. It could be that she had a different name, then she married a guy named Belmont. Like, it works that way. I think the one because we're going to talk about how we could fit into canon later. Yeah, like we'll talk about later, but this is the main retcons they did with Dracula. So originally, if you go to the old books for the NES Castlevanias, Dracula was Vlad the Impaler, got his powers from the devil to become the Count Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they obviously changed that with Lament of Innocence. So
significantly, yes.
Yeah. Once again, I like what Ayami Kojima did for young Dracula, but he doesn't really show up till the end,
which is fine because he's not supposed to be the main villain. It's a setup for who the character is and how he becomes
right.
The Lord of Darkness, which is totally fine by me. I don't have an issue with that in the storytelling for Lament.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking of seeing if I could do a live stream about Helsing at some point. That's just a lot. That's a whole lot of dark humor, and yes, Helsing is a Gary Stu, but it's done for basically satire of evil Dracula, and I like it.
Although when he does turn into Dracula at the end, or towards the end, that was badass. I just wish he stayed like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure what more you could parody. They do everything in Hell. They mock everyone in Hellsing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he fights the Nazi cult. There's zombies everywhere. What else does he have left to go destroy? I mean, Luke Valentine. He's killed him twice.
Have you ever seen the Hellsing abridged?
I don't know.
Oh,
Ultimate.
it's hilarious. He comes, Valentine pops out and he's like, "Oh, I'm alive! Thank God!" And then he gets shot in the head.
I mean, he already got eaten by Wolf. He already got eaten by Wolf Helsing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Helsing because Crispin Freeman is the voice of both Matthias in Lament of Innocence or Young Dracula, and he's also Hector's voice, which works very well with the plot twist. When I thought about it yesterday, it's like, wait, that works very well with the plot twist for Curse of Darkness, that you have the guy who previously voiced Dracula now voicing his adopted kid named Hector.
Oh, neat.
So there it is, the Dracula retcons. Helsing Abridged made it better. Yeah, I'm gonna finish that other one. Abridged. So what is the abandoned castle? So it's the first place you go in Curse of Darkness. I would have to say Vampire Hunter D, as far as I know. The Dracula or Sacred Ancestor in Vampire Hunter D is the strongest, like, Count Dracula I've ever seen. Possibly the oldest too. He's basically like, if you go into the manga or novels, the Vampire Hunter D version of Count Dracula goes into fights with like aliens from outer space and even elder gods and higher ranking demons from hell. He goes against those, and he's also Vampire Hunter D's worst enemy in the same series.
Yeah, I think what it's hard to judge who's actually stronger, because if you're looking at Helsing Dracula, you're looking at like Alucard. Like, we all know who we're talking about.
Alucard Helsing.
Yeah, pretty much like all of his abilities and everything. Like, he's got a lot of really cool powers, like the hellhounds that he could just create using himself. But pretty much everything that allows him to put himself back together and everything, that's based on the number of people he's killed and absorbed.
Right.
He runs out of those and he's got nothing left.
So basically he has to keep killing people to keep his powers. But
yeah, basically, when D is reserved the entire time. We only ever see him get pissed off twice in the series, and vampires who are significantly more powerful than his reserved form instantly buckle, like
Magnus
Carmilla and Magnus.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Sacred Ancestor, he's done things such as cover entire continents with dark clouds. That kind of magic. He has picked fights with other elder gods, which are among the most powerful known creatures to exist in Vampire Hunter D. I'm not familiar, but aren't there like deities that you can fight in Dungeons and Dragons for those D&D players out there?
Oh yeah, there's tons.
There are. Like,
one of them is literally Cthulhu.
Okay. So that's where they got it from. I mean, I know we don't quite meet the deity in Baldur's Gate 1 because I recently finished Baldur's Gate, the first one. But there's like the god of like murder, Baal. I think he's another one, but you don't fight him. You just fight the guy who represents him, called Sarevok. His disciple, Sarevok, anyways. So Vampire Hunter D, he has Talking Hand is an actual symbiotic demon that he has in his body. So it forms a face on his hand. but the demon has the symbiotic demon has what's known as psychometry, where he can go through the history of the terrain or items that he touches to know who's touched it, who's handled it, or what kind of skills that person might have. It's hard to explain. It's like what psychometry is. If that helps you, Alex.
Yeah, he can also eat dirt to somehow help. What was it? What did he do specifically in after the guy cuts off Dee's hand and leaves him in front of the candle?
So it's a demonic entity. So he like got the muscle fibers to reintertwine with Dee's arm because he's connected like a symbiote, like Venom.
Yeah. So he eats the dirt and then like crawls back over and wakes Dee back up, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's been a long while since I've seen the first one.
Right. That's actually from April 9th through April 13th. There's select theaters replaying the first one actually for the 40th anniversary.
I remember.
Oh yeah. But here we're trying to figure out what is the abandoned castle. It's not Dracula's castle because that appears as a separate entity once you finish the Infinite Corridor. But it obviously is haunted. It's just not what's the better word to say for it? It's not maintained, but it has most of the same monsters you find in Dracula's castle. I'm wondering if it's an Easter egg to Lament of Innocence, where it's actually Walter's castle, but it's just not alive anymore.
So because I don't know Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness, the abandoned castle is not a demon castle like Castlevania is, right?
It is, but you don't. At the end, when Leon leaves and Ronaldo notices the sky is no longer dark anymore, he says that yes, Leon must have succeeded. He did he did it, but we don't see the castle crumble. And I don't know. I wonder how much the geography could have changed if that is Walter's castle. It's abandoned and crumbling. But that's one of the things I thought about it, is it could have been Walter's castle or some kind of other vampire lord's castle that just doesn't totally crumble, but it's obviously still haunted, and Isaac was using it before Hector shows up. But it's obviously, if you beat the Infinite Corridor, Count Dracula's castle or Castlevania comes up out of the lake, and it becomes so you have two separate castles in the same game once you finish the Infinite Corridor.
Okay.
So that's just my thought, is that maybe it's Walter's castle, but Walter's dead, so it's just falling apart. But I don't know. It could be something else. Have you ever thought of what the abandoned castle might be?
I don't really know anything about the abandoned castle. I didn't know this was a thing because I've never played the games.
Yeah. There is the prequel manga for Curse of Darkness, and the abandoned castle is where Isaac was before the start of the game. Isaac Alferez, but that's about it. And we do know that in the abandoned castle, there's monsters that you'd see in Dracula's castle in it, but it's obviously not Dracula's castle because that's a separate thing.
Okay.
My fan theory is that it is just Walter Bernhardt's castle, but it's abandoned because Walter Bernhardt, of course, is dead.
Yeah.
But it still has some of the evil auras that it originally had.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Who are the Lecardes? So there's the identical twins, Stella and Loretta from Portrait of Ruin. There's Eric with the picture from the manual of Portrait of Ruin with Alucard. Yeah, I thought it might be. It's never confirmed, Braymore, it would be a perfect Easter egg or perfect thing to have. I don't know, signature of continuity. I think because they also had Crispin Freeman voicing both Matthias in Lament of Innocence and Hector in Curse of Darkness. So it's another thing that could carry over. You know, that's true too. I want to think it's an Easter egg, Alex. So, members of the Unknown Family featured in Bloodlines and Portrait of Ruin and Grimoire of Souls. So, in Grimoire of Souls, they didn't finish that game. You can get it on Apple Arcade. I wish it were still on the Android store. But yeah, there's also Hermina. So, I guess one of the twins had children too. Reverse of the card is Edrac L, or He is the Devil in Romanian. The card is the other case of Dracula in reverse aside from Alucard. They were so Stella and Loretta Lecarde are two identical twins, taken daughters of Eric Lecarde, featured in Lament of Innocence, Portrait of Ruin, not Lament of Innocence, Portrait of Ruin. They were taken indoctrinated by Bronner. And the good ending, they become the only case of people cured of vampirism as regular people and live to tell about it.
Yeah, canonically at least, because they're like basically once you're taken by a vampire, you're basically toast. Like,
well,
there's nothing else in the main timeline.
Oh,
the only other one would be Rose from 64.
But she died. And when I think about it, the death of Eric was in a way the price of curing Stella and Loretta. So I don't know. Oh, yeah. I wish that mobile games showed up on Steam, and some of them do. Fallout Shelter is both a mobile game and a Steam game. It's like building your own vault in the Fallout games. Yeah, so we might see more of that. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered was first a mobile game, and then it's on Steam now as well. So we can see more. Yeah, although I don't know, having Ronaldo at the end to congratulate him, but yeah, he lost his. And it may have been something that wasn't known at the time of Lament, because that's 11. So back in 1092, they might not have known that versus 1944. But even then, Eric was dead before then. So as a ghost. I don't know. I think he was just someone who was really radical about wanting to get independence from the Ottoman Empire. I mean, they were huge back then.
Yeah, and there's no better a scare tactic than drinking the blood of your own people, you know.
Well, he had the dead bodies of the people who got executed, and some of them were all the way dead. And he sat down at a table eating with them with the dying people in the background.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was a loon, absolutely. As for being a vampire, I doubt it. Although the fact that he went missing from his own sarcophagus is a great little eye opener. I'll be back in just a moment.
All right. See you then. So Lecardes are interesting. We don't know. We just don't. And the other thing is that Grimoire of Souls, they canceled before they finished it. So we don't know what Alucard was, or Genya Arikata was going to tell Hermina Lecarde. I think what he's going to tell her is why he took the spear away from the Lecarde family. Like, it's probably simple as I didn't want you guys suffer enough. I'll take it back. Then there, but the big fan theory that someone will warn you about is they think that they're Alucard's kids. I don't have a thing either way. Maybe he changed his mind. I don't know. He was teased as eventually romancing Maria Renard in Nocturnal Recollection, but I have no official statement on it. So the spear that the Lecardes are known for carrying, you can find that in Symphony of the Night in the Sega Saturn version only. You can't find any other ones, but yeah. So overall they're a mystery, but I'm going to wait for Albeleo before I continue this. We're going to talk about games that were removed from canon. That were canon at one point. So, Castlevania Legends, Castlevania 64 / Legacy of Darkness. I'm doing it because they're both essentially part of a larger connected story. Then there is Castlevania Circle of the Moon, where he plays a guy who isn't called Belmont. He's called Nathan Graves. Then you have, let's see what else there is. These are the big ones that are removed from canon. Doing great, Eric. How are you doing? So here I am with the thing. So the big thing with Castlevania 64 and Legacy of Darkness is that it would make Dracula coming back multiple times, if not redundant, because around the 1850s, because this is around the 1850s is when Order of Ecclesia is supposed to happen. Then Order of Ecclesia, then you'd also have 1850. If you try to make Castlevania 64 and Legacy of Darkness back into canon, you'd basically have in 1 decade, you'd have Dracula be around twice in 10 years. And to be fair, even within there, I don't agree with it. I really don't like the idea. I understand that people are trying to insert their modern scenario into what was set in the 18th century. It doesn't work. The Belmonts they're not, I'm not saying there aren't good people, but they are really orthodox in their religion. They really go by this strict code, and being really orthodox back in the 18th century, you wouldn't have a favorable view for a father who wasn't with his kids. They wouldn't have a favorable view for parents who were not married. That's what I'm going to tell you, Alex. That is how it was through a lot of the 18th century, and especially before then. You'd be looked down with if you were born to parents who weren't married. Like, that's not now, that's then. And what they did with the show is, with the series, they put it back that way, where it's like it is today, where no one cares if your parents are married. No, back then it was something that they didn't look at you very favorably about. People would literally give their kids up for adoption with an orphanage if it was born to someone who wasn't their wife, or if they weren't married when the child was born. I hope that answers it for you, Alex. I just don't feel it would go on so well back then. And I feel they kind of forgot about how things were centuries ago. Konami's. I would hope they showcase another game. Most of what they've been doing with Metal Gear and Castlevania has been bring back the old ones, which isn't bad. I would bring more. I would also like it if they brought back, say, Castlevania 64 on the Nintendo Switch store. I would like that. Because one of the games we're going to be talking about later, it's Rareware, but we're going to be talking about how Jet Force Gemini is on the Switch store. And it's an underrated N64 game from 1999 by Rareware. And I played it in the 2000s, enjoyed it quite a bit. But it's run and gun, third-person shooter, over-the-shoulder view, all that amazing thing. All those amazing elements in a shooting game where you're fighting an army of ants with guns. No, he was only a one-night stand child in the Netflix series. It's pretty much given to you that he grew up with parents. Maria Renard even said she knows who her mother and father were, but they're dead in Rondo of Blood. So all we know in Rondo of Blood is Richter grew up knowing both of his. Maria Renard grew up knowing both of hers. That's what we know from a few words of dialogue. It's only Netflix animated series that did that. So, Castlevania Legends, that would kind of go against the part where Trevor, not Richter, Trevor was the first one to confront Dracula in person. Yeah. And you know what? I'm doing the hashtag, and I'm going to type it here in the comments too. Hashtag Castle. I'm going to do hashtag Castlevania 3D collection. We're using this hashtag on Twitter, or X, as they call it. I keep calling it Twitter, dang it. And that's the name I want to call it, because that's the name I grew up with it being called. Hashtag Castlevania 3D collection.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
So it's okay. We're starting to talk about how these games work in canon, and then my explanation here was that 64 and Legacy of Darkness could, but it would make Dracula coming back three times in a decade if you include Order of Ecclesia. That would be pretty redundant. I mean, but Legacy of Darkness does explain how Dracula comes back, because he takes all of Cornell's werewolf curse and uses it to bring himself back.
Yeah, they would fit, and they would also fit in the timeline just after Richter withdraws the Belmont clan.
Right. Although the booklet for Castlevania 64 is that Reinhardt is Richter's great grandson. It would just mean that, I guess you just say Richter has more than one child.
I suppose.
And he's related to his daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'd have to sit down and look at the information again. It's been so long since I've done anything for Castlevania 64.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it to the finish soon. I've just left behind Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for a while, and I'm gonna play that live later today.
I gotcha.
But I'm gonna be finishing Curse of Darkness and Castlevania 64 soon when I get back to them. So Legends. I mean, the issue there is just that wasn't Trevor the first one to confront Dracula personally?
Yes. Legends is supposed to be. Legends is also supposed to be like the actual continuation of the Belmont clan, because
origin in a way.
Basically, it's presumed that Sonia and Adrian have children, and that's where you get the magical abilities and everything else over time in the Belmont clan. But then Lament of Innocence came out.
Yeah, so they are not no more. There is Julius later, and he's directly descended from Richter. It's just that Richter had the Morris family take on because he just didn't feel able to do it anymore. And that's where the Lecardes also come in, because Alucard just said, no, I just don't want to have the Belmonts do this alone. What happened with Richter scares me, and I just don't want that to take that risk. So the cards have my spear, and you guys shouldn't be alone from each other. So that forms the duology that is Bloodlines followed by Portrait of Ruin. And at the end of Portrait of Ruin, it's back to it's presumed to go back to being Belmonts again with Julius.
Also, hi Eric, and hello Chaos. How you guys doing? The entire village of people that you help in Order of Ecclesia, they are all Belmonts. It's not that the Belmonts aren't around. It's that the Belmonts as vampire hunters has been withdrawn and hidden because Richter felt so ashamed from what he allowed to happen to him with Shaft mind controlling him that he was just like, yeah, I'm not who I thought I was, and we shouldn't be doing this right now. And that's where you get Order of Ecclesia. That's where you get the Morris family and the Lecardes family, like everybody, because like in the absence of the Belmonts, everybody in Transylvania went, oh crap, like we don't have the best of us anymore. We have to work on ourselves more to try to stop all of the evils of Dracula. And that's where all of the that's where all the groups and everything come from.
Yeah. It just makes you wonder if the Schneiders still fit. Maybe yeah, maybe no.
I would say they could, like maybe because Bloodlines doesn't happen until
1917.
Yeah,
1917,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so maybe the Schneiders actually got the vampire killer whip first, and they either failed or it didn't work out in the long run, and they ended up handing the whip off.
I mean, the ending with Reinhardt's pretty sad.
Well, yeah, but I'm positive Rose comes back, like at the very end.
I'll see. Maybe that's it.
I'll look because I'm so positive that's the case, because it's like he for some reason
she throws herself in the way of the Grim Reaper sickle. She goes in the way of the Grim Reaper sickle, and she presumably disappears, like Obi-Wan Kenobi death right there.
I'm so positive she's in his ending, because because Rose is tricked into fighting.
Yeah, she goes at you with the raper in her like energy ring attack when you go back to the kitchen.
Yeah, it's good. I'm looking right at it. Yeah, right after you kill Dracula, the castle crumbles, and then a rose, a full rose falls out of the sky, and then on the hill overlooking the destruction, Rose is cured and revives right there in front of him.
Okay. So I must have missed something. I'm gonna try to
he's talking to her when desire reigns in people's hearts, yada yada yada. The fight between Dracula and humanity is endless. Yes, that is the fate of humanity. This is Rose talking.
All right. I'll try that.
Yep.
I thought the Grim Reaper killed her.
Yeah, it's the good ending. So I would imagine you have to do it like within the time limit too, because obviously you need to. You can't take the kid home.
Right. And there's Carrie's ending too. I want to try finishing that one.
Mhm.
But yeah. But
So
yeah.
yeah, I think the 64 titles. I mean, realistically, Legacy of Darkness is 64, just better.
Right,
So,
but it's Cornell. And the interesting thing about Cornell is even though Legacy of Darkness isn't canon, he does show up with the other characters in Judgment. You can play as Cornell in werewolf form. And Cornell also is in the first Lords of Shadow.
Okay.
So,
speaking of Judgment, I finally happened to see. I finally got to see what the artwork for Shinoa. I have never in my life come to hate something so vehemently.
I mean, it's okay. He's basically wearing I don't know, like a tunic and some tights. It's very different from the game. I'm going to say that much.
Yeah, she's just a completely different character. I appreciate the veil that they're trying to give her, but they cut off her hair. They've got the leggings all the way to the top. She's not wearing a breastplate or anything. She's just wearing a corset. Like they tried to turn her into like a casual churchgoer, and I think they just completely butchered her design. Drives me insane, especially after becoming such a big fan of Order of Ecclesia.
Yeah. Now there's Circle of the Moon. That kind of means that the whip changed hands a lot more because now it's Nathan Graves. And to be fair, I believe that was the first Game Boy Advance one.
Yes, because they went really overboard because this was around the time that they did I say they, it wasn't them specifically, but whoever it was that did what was it, Chain of Memories, I think, for Kingdom Hearts, where it's like entirely card combat. Like there's a big card combat during this era of gaming for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the popularity of like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic at the time.
I think
like,
so.
Peaking as high as it did.
I mean, Pokemon was every other person was watching it according to the ratings for up to at the end of the 90s, start of 2000. Really popular. The Pokemon games sold well too.
Oh yeah, they always have. What I've only played through Circle of the Moon once, and that was years ago. What when does Circle of the Moon take place?
So Circle of the Moon is closer to 1812. So again, it would mean Dracula came back quite a number of times.
Oh, Trevor would still be alive.
I mean, Richter. Yeah, Richter could still be alive.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Richter would still be alive here.
He'd be older, but yeah.
Hardly. What's
Oh wait, 1830. Sorry, that's that. Why was I thinking 1812? 1830. Circle of the Moon. Let me look up.
Okay, so yeah, he'd be older. And when was 64 again?
1852. And Cornell giving up his werewolf curse was 8 years before that. So the cursed children of Dracula were around the time of Cornell. Cornell gave up his werewolf curse. Henry Aldry came in there and got some of and rescued some of the children. He wasn't sure if he got them all. But 8 years later, using the werewolf curse that he had gotten from Cornell, that's how Dracula came back.
All right, so if it's a decision between either the 64 title, so we'll just say 64 to put both of them together. So it's either 64 takes place after Symphony, or it would have to be Curse of the
Circle of the Moon.
It would have to be one of the two. It could not be both.
So yeah, there are some people. If you play as Albus in the alternate mode of Order of Ecclesia, he uses a gun. Also, Henry Oldry, you can unlock Henry Oldry in Legacy of Darkness. He's got a musket. He's got a flintlock pistol. So he has a pain in the reloading time, but he has range when he shoots.
Also, you get a handgun in the Sorrow titles.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so you're just running around in the future with a pistol the entire time. It does like nothing for damage, but you could absolutely beat the game with it.
Also, in Curse of Darkness, you can get a Gatling gun if you get all the components. I failed this time around in Curse of Darkness to get the Devil Iron, so I'm going to probably play Curse of Darkness again just to steal and get the Devil Iron.
Mm-hmm.
But you have other ranged weapons too, like you have like throwing stars or Molotov cocktails in Curse of Darkness. Those have a limited range.
Yeah, there's actually more guns in Castlevania than most people think.
Definitely. So let's see, Legacy of Darkness, Sorrow, and Curse of Darkness if you get the right equipment to build the weapon. I haven't heard of Dark Watch. I've been kind of distracted, Alex, because I played. I've recorded some of them, but I've been playing Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania because Vampire Survivors has literally the most complete set of unlockable Castlevania characters ever. It even includes Sonya, Reinhardt, and even villains, because it even includes Isaac LaFerez and the other villain characters, including Dracula himself.
Yeah, I'm unaware of what this Dark Watch game is as well.
Never heard of it. I made the guitar, which can stun people but even that has a limited range. They have to get close enough to you to be stunned by the music from Hector playing the guitar. And it's a Gatling gun, which is not. A Gatling gun is not technically a machine gun because it's not automatic fire. You have to keep turning the crank to make the gun keep firing. So that's semi-automatic.
Cowboy vampire first-person shooter on Xbox and PS2. Wow, that's that's an interesting combination of things. I'm
going to ask some of the groups I'm in if they know about that, because unfortunately, since it's not something that's a Nintendo title, it probably isn't going to be on the Switch Store, which is another thing. The Switch Store should, at this point, add GameCube titles eventually. I mean, Mario Sunshine is 20 years ago.
Yeah, they did just release Metroid Prime, so come on, get on it, guys.
On Switch, that's good. Yeah.
They did a HD remaster of the first Prime game, and then people were like, "Please give us Echoes," and Nintendo said no, and they're like, "What? Why?"
All I'm saying is that 20 years ago is the amount of time where it wouldn't matter if they put it on their store. I mean, GOG or GOG, they have plenty of 20-year-olds games, even older because they go back to DOS.
Yeah.
So I mean,
multiplayer, interesting.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. So, what games could fit in canon? Well, potentially all except Legends could. At least if we're talking, if you don't mind Dracula coming back so many times in one century.
Yeah. There's too many. There's too many contradictions, and a lot of the other information is just way too close. You'd have to make the assumption that like for example, Circle of the Moon, you would have to assume that Nathan Graves, he gets like he goes through the adventure and then he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this anymore, and just like gives up the he just gives it up, hands it off to like the Schneiders.
Yeah.
Either that or you have to kill him, one of the two.
That, and I mean, I could see why Iga would retcon that, because it would just be like, no, he just gave it to the Morrises.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a dark and light path in the game. Interesting. Well, thanks, guys. I am at least interested in this.
I'm gonna actually get the link in the comments to our previous episode where we talked about season 2 of Nocturne here.
Mm-hmm.
But next week we're going to be talking about Jet Force Gemini, which is now on the Switch Store. It's a later one of the
N64 titles.
N64, yeah, but now it's on the Switch Store, and I've had fun with it because it's the dual joystick system is what you have for the Switch Store version, so I can use one stick to aim, one to move, similar to Halo, only third person. So I feel that the dual stick system works for a lot of older. It makes a lot of older N64 games easier to play now. But other than that, that's the previous one, and that's the other project I'm working on, Castlevania Tomato in the Mirror. And later today, I'm going to be playing Ocarina of Time to continue where I left off, going into the past, trying to find some more items, since I can go back in time now after doing the Forest Temple.
Nice.
So, should be pretty good. We've had a nice stream today. I'll look forward to seeing you all. I was talking about Jet Force Gemini next Thursday, same time, same channel, unless there's some announcement otherwise, but that's the next topic coming up. So,
and later today, I will. Well, I don't know if I'll get it out at 3:00 because I have a lot of editing to do and I haven't even started on it. But probably like 5 or a little bit later today, I'll have my review of Mickey 17 and.
Mickey 17.
Oh yeah, dude! I was not expecting this to be what it was.
I mean, the trailers. I was laughing at it from the trailers. Come on.
Oh yeah, all of that is about 5 minutes before it just turns into pure propaganda. It started off.
What I even call it propaganda, or how about just call it involuntary clowning?
Dude, Mark Ruffalo is a almost 1-to-1 stand-in for Trump.
Well, are you laughing at him or laughing with him? That's my question.
I'm cringing the entire movie.
Yeah, that's my point, is that most of what they try to do for propaganda today is just cringe when they try it.
Oh no, this is as pure and mean-spirited as it could get. It's kind of insane.
Oh.
Yeah, there's going to be mark my words, there's going to be a flood of comments that come in if this video isn't, mulched in the algorithm. There will be a flood of people saying it's satire, you just didn't understand it, and all this. It's coming. It's coming.
Oh, it'll be good. But so later today, I look forward to yours, and I'll be playing Ocarina of Time live stream. Sweet. Yeah. So. Everyone, thanks for stopping by. And as I always say, until we meet again, farewell.
Have a good day, everybody.